Did I just triple parry? What the fuck was that? I just triple parried or something? Alright, the first Dark Souls game definitely had a bit more slow-paced, less action-oriented and methodical combat than the later installments in the franchise. Of course, your character was less mobile as well. However, what if we take that to the extreme by slowing down our character's movement by 50%? Now, if the entire game would be slowed down like that, it would make things much easier. Sort of like a Matrix, Max Payne or Fear franchise style bullet time mechanic. But it becomes a very different story if we move at half speed, but the enemies move at normal speed. In fact, as gimmicky as I would have expected it to be, nothing could have prepared me for how incredibly brutal and harsh this game becomes under these kinds of circumstances. I mean, I have limited my movement to quite an extent before, but slowing yourself down like this is the quickest way to increase frustration. Fighting against your muscle memory, attack windows turning into tiny peepholes, and we might as well refer to drinking Estus as a slow motion potion. Meaning that you'll have to search high and slow for any opportunity to heal without getting hit right before, during or immediately after. What a disaster! And it wouldn't have been a press continue challenge if I wouldn't also have arbitrarily made things much worse on myself. You could probably think of some effective builds that would make slow movement viable, but that's not exactly what I went for, and even actively avoided. In order to be theme appropriate, I opted for the one weapon in the game that has an actual ability to slow others down as well, namely the stone greatsword. Well, to be fair, I already knew that this was pretty much limited to PvP, because due to only NPCs being affected by it, in PvE the effects of stabbing the air are nihil, and more than 3 times over. But hey, it's tangentially related to the theme of the challenge, and no one watches this channel to see efficiency, optimization or, well, sensible behavior in general. But let's just say that the progress throughout this challenge was slowed down by another 50% because of that weapon choice alone. On top of that, because of my previous 2 challenges in this game, I also didn't want to focus on spells, and preferably also not too much on heavy armor. And actually, at 50% speed, poise and defense do become almost essential, but not necessarily always effective either. Because your healing animation is slowed down as well, and when you do stagger, that animation leaves you vulnerable for twice as long. Not to mention, good luck trying to move out of danger when necessary, when being that heavy. No, fast rolling is something you absolutely want to maintain at almost all times. Because fast rolling is also only fast in very relative terms. In a nutshell, this entire playthrough was a fight against muscle memory and experience of how the game normally would function. In fact, this requires you to not merely restore or maintain your humanity, but to transcend it into the next evolution, a new species of slow-mo sapiens, with a mind capable of understanding how convoluted time truly is when the lands of Lordran turn into the country of Slovenia. The way I set up this challenge was by using a tool named DSR Gadget. So, first I move at normal speed, but slow and behold, a single tap of a button puts me in a quite different time zone from the rest of the world. And speaking of the rest of the world, it often doesn't even know how to handle my presence within it, resulting in some peculiar encounters with the laws of physics when the speed limit of the universe is given the middle finger. On top of that, the beings within this world give me the finger as well, because I can hardly lay a finger on them within 3 to 6 business days at least. And speaking of the laws of physics, because my falling animation is reduced by half as well, comparatively speaking, gravity pulls me down twice as fast. By the way, I hope the audio is okay. Oh, hey, hello! What the hell? Gravity! Okay, so I couldn't even do the plunge attack. Well, that's interesting. Wait, what? Come on, I'm not going to die against the Asylum Demon, right? Oh, okay, standing up also takes twice as long. Come on, don't die. Don't die, please. Oh, if he does the overhead one, can I even get out of the hitbox? That one. Ooh, I didn't get it. Okay, good. You know, with the weird lingering hitbox thing. Okay, almost there. Come on, bleed. He didn't bleed, come on. Yeah, no, it hit. That's better. Oh boy, I was afraid that I was going to die against against the Asylum Demon. How the hell is, yeah, you know, menace and that kind of stuff going to go? Jesus. And speaking of rolling, in order to soothe the almost obsession of the livestream viewers, although in a technical sense the iframes of your rolling animation are doubled, simply because it's tied to the animation itself, which lasts twice as long, but not in the sense that iframes are added to the roll, like leveling up ADP in Dark Souls 2 does. Which means that in any practical sense, this was almost never even a noticeable advantage, with only a few late game exceptions in combination with the flippering. But since those were still some of the worst experiences I've had in those boss fights, the most important takeaway is that it absolutely does not outweigh the massive disadvantages that dodging at half speed burdens you with. Now, the reason I started as a thief is because there is an obvious benefit to wielding a fast moving weapon. Something I would go completely against soon enough with the Stone Greatsword, of course. But before we can acquire that one, another way to be theme appropriate is to become a literal slowpoke, by slowly poking with a poking weapon. And contrary to spears, thrusting swords don't make your character pull the weapon all the way back at the start of your attack animation. In addition to that, you can wield it left-handed as well, turning the strong attack into a parry, allowing for a quite unique dual-wielding setup. Pokes for range, slashing for speed, the ability to parry with additional repose damage. Well, I do have the master key, but I still want to go through Undeadburg. It's just more interesting. This is simply, oh, hold on. Hey, hey, don't fall off, don't fall off, don't fall off, don't fall off. Okay, that's not good. Okay, poke. Poke. Yeah, but even my poking is not fast enough. Jesus, okay, well, that's why you have the dagger as well. Oh my god. Roll distance doesn't seem to be affected. No. There we go. Poke again. There we go. Well, the thing is, I can't really run past the enemy. Oh, fuckalicious. I really have to make sure I get the first attack in. I can't really run past... Fuck me. Run past anything when I'm this slow, as you can imagine. Stealth is also not really a thing in this game, so I don't even have the option of keeping a slow profile. Can I still get behind him somehow? No. I shouldn't even have tried. Yeah, can I still get behind him? Yes! There we go. Massive repose damage from the bandit knife. He falls off my knife before I'm done with my animation. Yeah, I'm definitely not going for the Zweihandle this playthrough. That's for sure. Oh, fuckalicious. Get out. Another problem is getting stun locked, because it takes me twice as long to recover from getting flinched. So yeah, that's going to be a constant nuisance, as you can imagine. Ah, what the hell? Ah, no! No, I'm getting stunned. No, fuck off. No. Shit. No, move. No! Wait, what the hell? I spun around because I got hit in the head? Son of a bitch! I didn't even make it to the fucking bonfire. They're called that for a reason, right? They're bows that make you cross. The thing is, if I light the bonfire and don't sit at it, it doesn't count in this game. Unlike in the later games. I can't even light it, shit. No! No! Come on! Jesus, I just want to light the bonfire and just sit at it to make some progress. That would be nice. What a great way to start 2026, right? What a great way to start the new year. Blasting off like a firework. Or like Team Rocket blasting off at the speed of light. Heal, quick! No, I can't heal. And I still can't light the bonfire. Ah, this is fucked. Oh my god! I can't even find an opportunity to heal. So I already died, what, 3 or 4 times before I even get to the second bonfire after Firelink. I've been here precisely 5 seconds. This is already hilarious. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, Baron. Oh my god. I mean, when you think about Dark Souls, you think about slow, methodical combat. But, well, it's certainly slow. Whether I'm approaching things in a methodical way, that's debatable, I suppose. And I don't have the opportunity to lay low for a while. I do have the opportunity to lay slow. So, hey, what the hell? He hit me from all the way here? Excruciatingly slow and steady wins the race, exactly. Okay, guys, we made it to the next bonfire. Progress. Awesome, only the entire rest of the game remains. Oh, wait. Another one from behind. That's not fair. Yeah, fuck! I'm stuck between a hollow. This is completely fucked. I got completely eliminated while stuck between a hollow and a hard place. Fucking fuck. Wow, this is just the beginning of the playthrough and I'm already exhausted. So let's already take a break with something even slower and definitely more relaxing. Ah, what about good old Bob Ross doing huh? Knife only? Bob Ross was a challenge runner? Well, I suppose that these hollows can finally enjoy a hollow victory against an experienced player, demonstrating that this is one of those playthroughs where fighting the bosses is not the only obstacle, but where the areas in between boss fights are very much part of the challenge as well. And hopefully the further we get into the run, the more I will get a feeling for the speed reduction and how to move compared to the enemies, without my muscle memory getting in the way. Not to mention how sometimes it's not even clear whether I can avoid taking damage in the first place. Like getting hit by arrows at the end of my climbing animation. Oh, sorry, bolts. Crossbows use bolts. We have to use proper English. So yes, I inevitably got bolterized, which was a bunch of bolter dash, minus the actual dash part of course. Which also entails that there is no way that I could dash back towards the ladder in order to do a plunge attack on the Taurus demon. So, would that imply that no plunging of any kind would be involved? You would think so at least. What a bunch of bull. Well, at least I can make him bleed, so that's at least a good thing. But good luck getting enough hits in at half speed. You know, twice as slow of a build-up. And bait him off the edge, that would also be difficult. But I'm very worried about his lingering hitboxes, that's the problem. Hey, oh, whoa, hey, whoa! Well, that certainly speeds things up a bit. Okay. Well, calculated. I was implementing my strategy there and it worked out exactly as planned. You see, I have to play very methodically. That's very important. It is very important to play methodically. Just think 1 step ahead, 10 steps ahead if necessary. Don't play hard, play smart. We move slow, we shouldn't be thinking slow. We have to, as I said, we have to transcend our humanity and become a slow-mo sapiens. To understand how movement works when time is this convoluted. Well, that was quick, ironically. Well, I guess that Taurus went from being the demon on the bridge to the demon off the bridge. Now, despite the fact that we are already living life in the slow lane, I wanted to start leveling up strength in order to prepare for the massive requirement for the stone greatsword later on. In hindsight, I should have gone for fist weapons instead. Sounds a bit brutish, but it would actually have been slow-fisticated. But since I didn't go that route, a better way to prepare for the stone greatsword was to acquire another greatsword as a stepping stone to see how such a weapon would function under these circumstances in the first place. And when you already have clay feet, you might as well clay more. And to be fair, not only did this weapon function way better than the S-stock or the bandit knife, to my great surprise to be honest. Well, I guess it's a fan favorite weapon for a reason. But just for clarity's sake, the claymore is superior to the stone greatsword in every conceivable way. Especially given how much lighter it is. However, without having leveled up strength, I wasn't able to one-hand it. And it became evident very quickly that parrying was slow-key overpowered under these circumstances, because contrary to rolling, there was in fact an actual noticeable extended window of parry frames. Not to mention that those frames are at the very start of the animation, which implies that parry timings are in fact the same as when playing at normal speed. However, when I finally managed to make it to Andre, I wasn't planning on upgrading the claymore, given that I would foolishly be replacing it later on anyway. But since I did want to have a backup weapon of sorts, I thought that the Uchi-Katana would be a wise decision. Spoiler alert, it wouldn't be. Mainly because it's a pure dex weapon, and you simply won't acquire enough souls to focus on strength and stamina and vitality and dexterity unless you would commit to massive farming sessions. Which I am fundamentally opposed against in the first place. But secondly, imagine trying to do that at half speed to begin with. Now having said that, when you refuse to farm when you do require a ton of souls, then you will inevitably reap what you sow. Fortunately, acquiring sufficient souls to purchase 9 Titanite, specifically 9 because acquiring a single one for free from the Baronic Knight, certainly was. Probably first time in any playthrough that became an issue, to be honest. But given that wearing heavy armor, like he does, would not exactly be viable while also maintaining fast rolling, well, fast-ish rolling in my case, acquiring the Wolf's Ring would be essential. But surprisingly, a bit more of a hassle as usual as well. Yeah, you can't fight 2 of these guys at once. You have to fight 1 at a time. Hopefully I survive this. Punch attack. Yeah, nice. Hey, but he's still alive! What the fuck? He frogged me up. I don't allow that. That's not committable. I thought that killed him. Alright, there we have the Wolf's Ring for 40 passive poise. Without having to rely on armor. Oh, hey! Tranquil Walk of Peace, so now I'm even slower. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to farm these guys for the sword. That's for damn sure. That's for damn sure. Okay, thank you, Wolf's Ring. Yeah, the Wolf's Ring is definitely... okay, nice. That's the second one. Now I only need the blooming. But it worked... I didn't get the repost. That was stupid. Dude, no! I made it all the way here and I still die. Maybe we'll just have to forget about the Crash Shield for now, because that takes too long. Everything takes too long. This is just straight up torture porn. Hopefully we don't have extended... Ah! Fuck. How is this going to work? Uh-oh. That works. Okay, good. What the fuck? Come on. Hey, no! What the hell was that? Dude. That was a giant boatload of fuck traveling on the ocean of shit fuckery. What? And now I fall here? Yeah, why can't I move forward? Look at this. What the fuck is this? Well, at least the R2 moves you forward far enough. Again! Well, that's better. Fuck me. An idea for Lemon. Firebomb only at half speed. Maybe he'll enjoy that. Well, it's definitely helping me out, that's for sure. It almost didn't, because he almost got me there with the jump, but fortunately it worked out. Okay. So, after becoming a jack of all trades to increase our damage later on, when it comes to bleed damage, the very tools of the trade seem to do jack, even against the stray demon with its low resistance, simply because of how low our build-up is at half speed. Although I was quite surprised that I could still move out of the way of his giant hitboxes in time. And although the reach of the katana made it a better bleed weapon than the bandit knife under these circumstances, I had to make sure to not stray away from the demon too much, so that I could hit his tail in relatively quick succession, because then I could in fact enjoy a handful of bleed procs. A bit strict, but still doable. After all, even compared to me, this guy is not exactly Speedy Gonzalez. And in general kind of a boring throwaway fight, merely put in the game to appeal to the slowest common denominator. But once I slay the stray, I'll become a demoninator. After which I became an eliminator in order to acquire the crash shield, which has the highest magic resistance in the game, which will become very useful later on. But the 20k souls from the boss were useful right away to obtain access to the forest of crestfallen warriors. After all, obtaining the stone sword without farming requires access to Shiva. I also obtained the stone armor there, although I wasn't quite sure if I would or should be using it at any point. But hey, it was a stone throw away from here to begin with, so you might as well have it in your back pocket, unless going for a swim or something. And preferably not in a swamp, but that is where Shiva is going after talking to him, and where he will sell the sword that we want. However, I did not have the souls required to purchase it in the first place. But a way to make your soul counter go through the roof is by fighting 2 gargoyles upon it. But trying to achieve that at half speed, ironically made me tap dance like a cat on a hot tin roof. Because their fire breath moves slowly sideways, and I can only move slowly sideways. Quick. Yeah, kill. No, he's still alive. That sucks. Quill, kill him. No, I couldn't reach him. Please. Yeah, fire. Oh, ooh, but don't die in the fire myself. No, I can't move. I can't move. I can't move. Wow, but that firebomb definitely helped me out there. But now I need to stay out of the fire. I can't get out of the fire. No. No. I need time to heal. Okay. Shit, not good. Oh, how am I still in the fucking fire? Fuck, I'm at the edge. Please, roof, save me. No, the roof is not saving me. Dude, this is fucked. Yeah? No! 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 Why am I still inside of the fucking hitbox? I don't agree with the hitbox on the fire. Okay, at least I'm close to him. Yeah? No! What fucked up fuckery is this? Yeah, good. Now I should have him. Yeah, I got him. Oh my god, that was so much more intense than you would think against a boss like the Belfry Gargoyles. Jesus fuck. I was very afraid that I wouldn't be able to actually make it through there. Well, it's their job to protect the bell, but now they are the ones who are fired. So they can go and put the Belfries in the bag instead. Well, despite having victory in the bag, I certainly did not get out of that without injury. However, with the gargoyles down, the statues of limitations have expired anyway. And the same thing was about to happen with Lautrec, because that is how I get my kicks. Then again, you don't actually kick in this game. You use your knee instead for some reason. Well, in that case we turned Lautrec into the knight who says knee, allowing me in turn to have a good fab. Although they used to say that makes you go blind, which actually kinda checks out, because I honestly thought that Shiva wasn't down there in Blighttown, despite the fact that he was standing right in front of me. However, I still couldn't see him, and the chat had to confirm that he was actually there. Well, in my defense, my eyesight isn't that good in the first place, and he is kind of camouflaged. Anyway, I at least now had sufficient souls to purchase the stone greatsword. However, I did not have enough to meet the 27 strength requirement to even two-hand it in the first place. Not to mention the massive endurance investment necessary in order to still fast roll with it, since its weight is no less than 18 Miyazakis. Now, I could solve this by acquiring Havel's ring, which I did, but even then I would not be able to wear armor on top of that. So, with the other ring slot being occupied by the Fab ring, the Wolf's ring was no longer an option either. Meaning, no poise while wielding an unwieldy and inferior weapon with a relatively slow startup animation. Well, it does upgrade with Twinkling Titanite at least. But since the Uchikatana doesn't, I still had to go to Capra Demon regardless, to gain access to the large amber. Now, at least here I could make use of poise by wearing the stone armor I picked up earlier. Because when I did try to rely on rolling, well, let's say that attack opportunities became less than evident. Although poising through his attacks with heavy armor, as I mentioned before, is also not as effective as you might think at 50% speed. After all, drinking Estus under these circumstances is like making tea, let it steep for a while, and then you need to blow on it before it becomes drinkable, and then you need to let it roll through your mouth as if it's a wine tasting. So you can make it work, but there has to be some method to your madness. A little bit like me acquiring the wooden shield from the graveyard in order to block magic damage against the Moonlight Butterfly. Because you might be wondering, didn't you acquire the vastly superior crash shield in the asylum before? Bro, just enjoy the video. Oh, and in case you are enjoying the video, a lot of you watching are not subscribed to the channel, so if you want to see more of me in the future, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I already have a large catalog of challenge runs that you might want to go and check out as well. Regardless, in the end, either shield would do. So after turning this boss into a butterflu, or an even poster pooper, I finally had acquired enough souls to obtain enough strength in order to two-hand the stone sword, and just enough endurance to wield it while fast rolling. Now, it did make me so poor that I walked around with only one shoe, and when people asked me whether I lost one, I had to respond with, no, I found one. Well, the shoe would certainly have been on the other foot if I had gone for a pyromancy build, but in case the game would at any point have me over a barrel, I still chose to free Laurentius from his, so that I could at least use power within if necessary. Also, on a side note, an ascended pyroflame costs 1/3 souls, so that was never my go-to anyway. But also, if the first thing that came to your mind was to simply circumvent the challenges in this playthrough by simply firestorming everything into oblivion, then come on, do you really think I would stoop that slow? Well, actually, even obtaining power within seemed to be out of the question. Because surviving in Blighttown at all while suffering from the single-digit FPS flashbacks from my very first playthrough back in the day, 10 years ago, was already enough of an issue in and of itself. But at least Quelaag didn't appear to be too much of a complicated fight, even under these restrictions. To be fair, I made kind of a dumb decision to wear the iron ring, thinking it would help me out to not get stuck in the lava. However, it caused me to mid-roll, and therefore almost was the very thing to get me killed. But hey, that's neither here nor there. The real issue in this fight was the giant explosion. If she did that right after I attacked her, I wouldn't have enough time to get out of it. In fact, even equipping the crash shield in order to block it, that still didn't work because I also didn't have enough time to go from two-handing to one-handing. Simply put, I could only afford to attack during the long version of the lava spit. And then focus on dodging while waiting for that to happen again. Also, it's a good thing that Quelaag's melee attacks are just slow enough to avoid them consistently at half speed, as long as you're fast rolling. But waiting for her to actually do the long lava spit is what truly slows the fight down, because she doesn't tend to do that with any kind of consistency. I don't want to get greedy, so come on, lava spit. There we go. That's better, huh? I almost was like, you know what, I'm just going to randomly try to get a hit in, but no. Good thing I didn't do that. Yeah, it's interesting that my lag still was able to overcome Quelaag. Because I'm lagging more than just a wee bit. Quite surprising that 8 lags are still inferior to 2 lags that run like when you try to run in a dream. However, the thing is that I thought that doing the ceaseless cheese at half speed could only happen in your dreams as well. And doing ceaseless cheeseless at this point, or as we would say over here, cheeseless ceaseless, daar heb ik geen kaas van gegeten. In hindsight though, doing that might still have been easier to accomplish than trying to obtain power within. Because I could not even make it to the first ladder. And to make it worse, I also failed to obtain the flip ring from Shiva's body, whose official name is Ninja Guy Dennis by the way. But I just couldn't get the final hit in. After which, they disappear for violating the Forest Covenant. And I'm so unfamiliar with how covenants work in this game, that I wasn't even sure if I would be able to obtain it at a later point. So ironically, I was going to flip out about that, but at least I could obtain the final Twinkle Tits I needed for the Stone Sword. Meaning I already had a fully upgraded weapon. Would have made more sense to do that before Quelaag, but I guess my thinking is theme appropriately rather slow as well. Although it's also in any other differently themed playthrough I do, on a side note. However, in most other playthroughs, getting out of Blighttown is never as much of an issue. But let's just say that the freaking mosquitoes are a blight upon humanity, just like they are in real life. Although, when I tried to obtain the Firekeeper's Soul, I couldn't even tell if this was real life or just fantasy. What the actual fuck? Oh, and if you think that was a Queen reference, then you can go and Bohemian Rhapsody's nuts. Anyway, with both bells rung, we could go to Sans Fortress, but not only did I want the ability to carry 20 Estus, but I was also only a few souls short for the 40 strength needed in order to one-hand the Stone Sword. And even when moving at such a slow pace, in theory at least, not necessarily in practice, the route towards Pinwheel is rather quick. After all, we don't need anything else here, meaning that there is no need to go through this area with a fine-toothed catacomb. And gravity might be quote-unquote doubled, but fall damage is not. I also got extremely lucky with the Bone Wheels, who you cannot even outrun at normal speed. In fact, these minion wheels are usually more of a boss than even the Kingpin wheel himself. However, this time around, anything on wheels can move faster than me. Or if you're really unlucky, pin you down in place. So, if I get good RNG, it's... Oh, no! That's what I was saying, the flamethrower. Yeah, that's a problem. Okay, heal. Now where the fuck is the real one? Hit them, quick! Okay, that was good enough RNG at least. Hey, not perfect, but still better than expected when spinning the Pinwheel of Fortune at like 1 rotation per hour. Well, dying to Pinwheel would have been soul crushing, but after crushing some souls and feeding Frampt, we finally had 40 strength, which allows me to parry again, because remember that at half speed, you don't have enough time to switch from one-handing to two-handing after a parry. And this was definitely right on schedule, because Petrus's comrades were right around the corner. And of course Petrus has comrades, given that his full name is Petrusian. And to reiterate, parrying is extra helpful in this challenge, given that it can be easier than trying to get the first hit in time. Attacking has a startup animation, but the parry frames start at the beginning of the animation. So by using this power, I could eat these snacks for breakfast. However, the enemies are only a minor obstacle in this area. After all, the reason Sans Fortress is called Sans Fortress is because it's defended by traps, which makes sense for trespassers. However, the mechanics of this game often do not make any sense and can even be used to your advantage. Because it's actually possible to just backstab your way through these boulders. Oh yeah, that's right, I'm actually still at 9 vitality, that's right. Well, fortunately, rock versus rock results in a draw, which is still a win on paper, no matter how you cut it. And the second boulder can be circumvented altogether by taking the long way around. Although, I almost wasn't even fast enough to safely make it down in time. So then you can take the long way around, although it took even longer for me to learn that this was possible in the first place, because I only learned about this 2 playthroughs ago. But fortunately I learned this time that a single roll is sufficient to clear the next section of X's. Although very fittingly I only learned that by accident. And then I was able to use a bow to knock down the Serpent Mage. After all, these guys are rather skinny, so they clearly don't weigh that much. Well, makes sense because this guy's name is Sir Pentagram. Although the Americans probably won't understand that joke. But what all of you guys are watching will have no problem understanding is the final obstacle. Trying to prevent the giant from exploding his hot balls all over your face. Come on, yeah, no! Don't die from the fall damage! No! No fucking way. Maybe if I jump? No, I still... Nah, come on! Your jump just get cancelled. Okay, first throw here, please. Finally. Ah! Son of a fuck. Fortunately, the next boss is as slow as I am. Ironic since he has I run in his name. Very unfitting. So the I walk golem wouldn't have been much of an issue if it weren't for the fact that despite me doing massive damage to him, he simply refused to start wobbling. And then when I ran out of stamina, which is bound to happen when you're on the slow carb diet, I was the one going down instead. Son of a bitch. However, next attempt I hit him way fewer times, and he did went wobble. But why? The fortress makes sense, the boss on top of it doesn't. Perhaps I should go and ask Trev the Dev to figure out how this mechanic is exactly programmed. Because everyone seems to be going off of assumptions. Well, I assumed that gravity also would be my major enemy in Analondo. And it kinda was, but not in the way you would have expected. If I could fall into the sky, and you know I won't walk 1,000 miles, because that would take too long. And no, you're not getting a 10-hour version of that. Ironically, compared to the previous playthrough, trying to get past the Analondo archers, even under these circumstances, went 10 times faster. Although still not necessarily that smoothly. But hey, at least it wasn't a repeat of the shenanigans from the previous playthrough. However, what was next was worse than arguably that entire playthrough. Well, almost. But at the very least I could in fact still make use of the staircase skip, even with the quote-unquote double gravity. However, despite having all the required upgrade materials for the Uchikatana, I had not acquired the very large ember, nor enough large titanite shards before, to upgrade it to +10 at Andre. Meaning that's only as far as I could go right now. And this is where it became very evident how my weapon of choice made my chances of victory sink like a stone. Because not only was the damage output of the stone sword, given that it was fully upgraded and with 40 strength, rather disappointing, but given how heavy it was, I had to choose between either the wolf ring for poise, but no defenses and stamina regen, or defenses and stamina regen, but 0 poise. Either decision was bad. On top of that, going full tank mode instead was anything but viable at half speed and with only 9 vitality. In fact, if anything, I wish I could have acquired the flip ring before, in order to have a superior dodge animation, since even fast rolling leaves you way too vulnerable against 2 fast enemies, because yes, even Smo is faster than me in this playthrough. Heck, whenever I had to heal, there was never a truly safe opportunity to do so. All you could do was gamble, and hope to not get hit while healing, or directly after it, putting you right back where you were. And then, sometimes you could simply take a safe sip out of pure luck, what I would like to refer to as a coinky drink. However, going Clash Cannon mode wasn't an option either, since I also failed to survive the drakes guarding the Red Tearstone Ring, and I wasn't able to acquire Power Within. Heck, even if I somehow would have chosen to go all the way back, the key to the elevator in Sans Fortress was inaccessible, since you cannot jump that gap at 50% speed. Simply put, I was stuck here. And not gonna lie, I was getting very salty, which makes moving with the speed of a snail quite a bit worse. However, after many failed attempts... Okay, awesome. That was actually really good. No, no! Oh, no roll cut. Okay, okay. No roll catch. Please? Oh! No! Fucking hell. That is some bullfuck. No! No! Oh, I'm alive at least, but yeah, I'm now in the back of the room. I'm in the back of the room on the ground. No, that is fucked. Oh, please. Yeah, please let me get out of here. Okay. Wow, we got lucky there. Yeah, but still, the butt slam. I don't know if 2 R1s will be enough to stagger him. That's the thing. Oh, okay, that does work. Okay, that's good. 2 attacks are enough to stagger him. That's important for when he does the butt slam. Shit, but I don't have enough time. Well, I am alive, surprisingly. Oh, it's so bizarre to fight Smo in this weird manner. Because now I have a hard time finding good attack opportunities. Because normally I run towards him so that he jumps over you, but that's not possible this time. Oh fuck, that hits you. Uh-oh. Yeah, I really need to rely on my asses this time. No! Shit! Stand up. No, 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 no! What the fuck? What the fuck? I couldn't get out of that. Dude, I needed 1 hit. Well, apparently even getting that far was just a fluke, because it was all downhill from there. To the point that I started to look for any other option available. But there simply was barely anything to work with here. The occult club sure as hell wasn't sticking the landing. And I even went as far to simply, for the sake of testing at least, use DSR Gadget to give myself a fully upgraded Uchigatana, just to see what would have happened if I had acquired Large Titanite and a very large Ember before going to Anolondo. However, then I discovered that without a massive investment in dexterity, this blade isn't exactly cutting edge. Meaning that it would not even serve as a viable backup weapon in the first place. And when a Japanese sword is mocking you like this, it is known as a katana na 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 na. Well, one last option remaining. The crystal halberd from the Mimic at the beginning of Anolondo. However, with the Uchigatana out of the picture, I obviously did not want to go and waste the Titanite chunks I had. Especially not on a crystal weapon with limited durability. So, I couldn't afford to actually upgrade it. Meaning that the damage wasn't as good as it could have been. However, despite its awkward rolling attack, which is a rather slow spin, it was much lighter and therefore allowed me to wear the Wolf's Ring for poise, plus some light armor for extra defense. So at least I had the option now to trade hits, given how rare attack opportunities are in the first place. Nevertheless, it became crystal clear that what is effective in theory doesn't necessarily translate to desirable results in practice. Because I still kept failing and failing without making it ever to the second phase again. Slowly wearing down its limited durability that cannot be repaired. Unless by upgrading it. And sure, it's not as fragile as some people make it out to be. But when you keep failing over and over again, Not merely your head, but also your arms will reach its breaking point. Weapon at risk, and now I need to somehow change. Fuck. Okay. Where's the weapon? There, and... Fuck, where's Devil's Ring? There. How the hell? I hit the hammer. Oh, come on. Okay, first of all, I have to dodge to his right. Otherwise, I'm just keeping the hitting the hammer. Okay. That does seem to work. I still hit the hammer. Oh my god, this is fucked. Dodging to the right is absolutely the answer. It's still not perfect, but it's definitely the way to go. Yeah, jump away. Okay, this is absolutely the way to do it. Okay, just die, please. No, 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 not the same thing as before. Not the same thing as before. No, not the same thing as before. Hit him, kill him. Fuck, that's almost the same thing as before, but now I win. This is what should have happened yesterday. Why did it not happen yesterday? Why did I spend 3.5 hours more at this? God, fuck that. Alright, at least the first try victory. Very nice. Son of a bullfuckery. Well, that might have been 50% speed, but 200% effort. But I was finally able to place the Lord Vessel. And even more finally, I went to acquire the Firekeeper Soul in New Lando. Because I obviously couldn't have done that before. Because of reasons. Probably not good reasons, but reasons. And of course, what I did not want to do before was to deal with Ceaseless Discharge. However, I still went to try and see if I could use the cheese tactic, even at half speed. After all, if I would simply immediately equip his Sister's Clothes for massive fire resistance, boosted by the fire ring from Sense Fortress, then even at 9 vitality, I should be able to survive his fire breath. But the problem was, I was so incredibly slow that I was still in range for him to tentacalously tentacle my bluff with his tentacle. Or whatever you want to tentacle his appendages. I honestly didn't even consider that that was a possibility to begin with. So, now I was in trouble. Because doing the cheese again requires you to go all the way back to the altar while Ceaseless is already active. And then you need to go all the way back to the fork wall. All of that at 50% speed. While Ceaseless was constantly breathing down my neck. However, this worked. To my great surprise. Despite him not ceasing his efforts. I don't know if that makes me persistent or simply demonstrates that his appendages are better referred to as incompetenticles. Regardless, the reason for going to Isolith first is because I did not expect the stone sword to be that much of a burden here anyway. And I at least had enough endurance now to wield the Crash Shield along with it. Allowing me to turn around and block the explosions from the Demon Fire Sage. Which do magic damage, not fire. I guess despite being on fire, the emphasis is very much on the Sage part. Which also explains why he isn't resistant to fire in the first place. Unfortunately, this fight is a rather janky mess this way. And blocking requires a ton of endurance. Almost to the point of still invoking fire rage in me. But in the end, it was not so depressing that I would need a prescription of Isolithium. In fact, when it comes to the next boss, I thought he would be happy to know that finally his 100 legs were superior to 2 human legs, since I couldn't make it to the corner of the room in time. However, when I then decided to go to the other corner in an attempt to cut his arm off to acquire the orange charred ring, he evidently required the aforementioned Isolithium prescription, since he chose to end it all by glitching himself out of bounds. Wow, this is the second time that happened without me intending for it to happen. While on top of that, in that very same playthrough, I also learned how to deal with the Bat of Chaos even when your movement is limited. Because in all honesty, I'm not even sure if the Firebomb trick would be viable at 50%. However, if you wait for the overhead attack, you have just enough time to make it onto the tree branch. And there I applied Flesh Wet in the hopes that it would allow me to survive Firestorm. However, I got lucky. I managed to skillfully avoid it altogether, slow motion Matrix style, completely intentional. So then I could put this bad bug to bed and call it a bad bug for being a bad boss. However, before going from the baddest of bosses to the goodest of boys, I first had unfinished business with Shiva. Shiva of the East, more like Shiva the Deceased.
He said it! He said it!
Well, more specifically, I had unfinished business with his shadowy companion. Yeah, not a second time, buddy. If you don't like it, better get a lawyer and ninjutsu me. And thus, I finally had access to the flip ring. However, a superior dodge means nothing if a superior dodge stunlocks you into oblivion. Meaning that you cannot even dodge in the first place. Or that you hadn't dodged in the first place, I guess. Well, I guess it's only appropriate to use the Great Wolf's Ring versus the Great Wolf. So other than that, he wasn't much of an obstacle, as long as you managed to stay underneath him. And I was also happy that we didn't get to see him limping, despite of the slowdown. Regardless, it had to be done. So I hope that you can all forgive me. Holy crap, okay, that one was way too far-fetched. Even for me that was really bad. Okay, I suppose I would deserve to get punished for that one. And as it turned out, I did get punished in the worst way possible. Namely, by discovering that beating Dark Souls at 50% speed is actually impossible. Not because of any enemy, but because of an elevator. And there's 2 of them in a mandatory area. All because you have to operate them with a lever. Ja, liever niet, dat is wat ik zou zeggen. So, we are stuck. We cannot beat the game. So I guess we have no other choice than to elevate our thoughts to a higher plane. By which I might mean simply going back to normal speed to pull the lever and then immediately change back. And simply ignore that this is a problem in the first place. But hey, we don't need to talk about those kinds of details. Let's just keep this a bit on the down slow. God damn it, I need a distraction, but a Conway Twitty song is probably copyrighted. Oh, look over here! A triple parry! Huh? Holy hell, I didn't even know you could do that. So, what were we talking about again? Who cares? We got a triple parry. Speaking of which, in anticipation of Gwyn at the end, I tested out the difference in parry animation between a shield and a rapier, given that the first parry against Gwyn's jump would necessarily leave a gap, and when that happens, I cannot close the distance in time for a riposte. But it did seem like the rapier would negate that problem altogether. After all, doing Gwyn without parrying sounds pretty cursed. However, I never could have realized how cursed it is to avoid Sif's curse buildup at 50% speed, if I could even survive at all, given that my usual looping strategy doesn't work, since his crystal breath does in fact track you. But out DPSing him doesn't work either, because I cannot avoid the giant AoE, which knocks me up in the air, and therefore doesn't allow me enough time to recover. And the thing is, he can do it twice in a row. Well, as long as he cannot do it 3 times in a row... Okay, now I'm seething. Why is he allowed to spam such a giant attack? Not even Havel's armor and the curse bite ring were enough to tank through it, because by not getting knocked up in the air, the curse buildup was constant. Well, speaking about getting knocked up or not, chasing Till was the solution. Because Sif won't do the giant AoE at all if you don't get close to the center of his body. And given how slow he is, us moving at 50% tips the scale less in his favor than you might think. And thus, fortunately, this Till did have a happy end. However, in order to reach the DLC, the Hydra needs to go Bydra, and he is heads without shoulders above us. So how can we possibly reach him in time? Well, we cannot exactly fly up there, but we do still have access to the bird from hell. Because everybody knows that Hellbird is the word. Hellbird, bird, Hellbird is the word. Also that Dark Souls trivia guy that constantly shows up in your shorts, he is also the bird. But, oh, well, actually even the running attack can only barely reach the heads in time. But hey, at least I made still a good effort of it. So, stick a bow on it, And let's just head off into the DLC. Which still took way longer than I wanted to. Because just after I finally managed to clear away all the crystal soldiers, so that I could have a one-on-one with the crystal golem, one final soldier somehow came around the corner before I could get the final hit in. Crystalling for time, as I now would have to do this entire section all over again. Yeah, I don't think that this type of challenge will become a speedrunning category anytime soon. Oh, speaking of which, is it even possible to quote-unquote run fast enough at half speed to reach Gwendolyn in time? Well, actually, sort of, ish. Because his hurt box remains active a long time, even after he disappears. Well, sort of, I think. There must be some sort of odd logic behind it. But here, once again, the running attack of the Crystal Halberd came in clutch. Halberd and earning us this victory, without the need of having to go all the way to the very end of the hallway. Which would not exactly have been a marathon of fun, given how long that already takes at normal speed. But then it was in fact time for the DLC. And a lot of time for the DLC in fact, because you cannot spell Sanctuary without Wary. Fuck me did I let my guard down because of Ian's low health and water pool. Because to immediately get to the mental core of the problem, I can neither survive long enough to deal sufficient damage, nor can I deal sufficient damage in the first place. I cannot get out of the 4-hit combo, although sometimes the flip ring could save me, but not with any kind of consistency. The water attack that you would always go for is not punishable anymore at 50% speed, unless you roll through it. However, then it's still a matter of pure RNG, whether the boss will retaliate or not. And that was still my best opportunity to attack. After all, for the most part, I couldn't even get close enough in time. But long story short, when you cannot exactly skip across the water, a stone in a pond is going to rock your boat to the point of sinking, and even in these shallow depths, there was nothing to salvage. No, it was time to finally choose a different weapon. But which one? Well, not the Zweihander, although pancaking stuff does feel appropriate in a world of molasses. After trying out a lot of things, what we settled on was a lighter and shorter sword, yet still a longsword. The longsword. Why? Because it's a quality weapon, although of questionable quality as you will see in the next fight, with a rolling attack consisting of a very quick poke, which also entails the benefit of counter damage, and of course coming full circle again since the beginning, given that we're once again an actual slowpoke. Because that is a lot faster, ironically, and confusingly. Oh fuck, the problem is if he doesn't do the 4-hit one, rolling towards him is not beneficial. Okay, good. Getting some good RNG at least. Very good RNG. Very good RNG. Very good RNG. Oh fuck. Oh yeah, that did suck. Still ended up with more health, so I guess, well, sort of. Yeah? Oh, no, got greedy. Okay, come on. Come on, this could be it. This could be it. This could be it. Give me the opportunity, please. Yeah, roll with him. And attack. And I got him. So, the combination of the longsword, who would have thought, and some favorable RNG. Awesome. Okay, we got it done. But the thing is, that is the easiest boss of the DLC. Everything after this is going to be way, way worse. Well, we then finally acquired Power Within with our longsword, and especially because we had way more health by now. But to be fair, it wasn't even that useful. Without it, the longsword's damage against Artorias was pretty abysmal, but even with the 40% extra damage, that still wasn't enough of a trade-off, given how few times I could actually manage to get a hit in. Not to mention the complete lack of healing opportunities, on top of the chip damage that I would take, even when dodging properly, when he attacks you with his iframing negating winter peppers. Or somersaults, whatever. But there were two aspects to this fight that made it even worse. How on earth was I going to stagger him out of his buffing animation? And two, why the hell would my stab attack arbitrarily whiff all the freaking time for no fucking reason whatsoever? I guess that the longsword is a longsword in name only. Well, at least after some experimenting, we did find a way to prevent Jim Torius from going buff. And the answer was, believe it or not, the Zweihander, which can stagger him with a single running attack, or R2 attack, given that this hits him twice with a single input. Of course, the problem is reaching him in time, and even if I did, if I was out of stamina, which was likely to happen, I could immediately get killed right after without a chance to do anything about it. And because I constantly kept missing my rolling attacks, which I had to do since those are the quickest, I kept attacking during unsafe opportunities, stacking up damage that I could practically never heal in the first place. At the very least, dodging sideways with the flip ring allowed me to get out of the iframing negating hitboxes of his spring sugar attacks. Now, as I said early on in the video, this was one of the few times in the entire playthrough where I actually noticed an advantage to rolling at half speed during certain attack animations that would normally have hit me. Did that really matter that much? Fuck no. Because this was still one of the most miserable Artorias experiences I've ever had. I died so many times here that I could have called him Restart Torius instead. And to be honest, I would have given my left arm for it to be finally over. I have no stamina. So the Zweihander doesn't help either, because if I'm out of stamina, it's immediately over. So I can stagger him out of the buffing animation, but half the time that's just going to get me killed anyway. No, can't reach him. Oh, I can't reach him. Yeah, I can't do it. I can't reach him. Yeah, okay, now he's even stacking the buff, so... It simply comes down to this then. I simply can't get hit. Period. You just have to do it hitless. He just doesn't want to do sweep attacks. Sweep attack! Oh, that's also okay. There you go. That's sweep attack. Yeah! No! He doesn't, but... Oh, I almost got hit, but... In a completely at the wrong time. Come on, you have all this opportunity to do sweep attacks. Nope, he's not doing it. I don't get it. Why can't he just do sweep attacks? I just don't dare to attack. Didn't hit? Come on! Come on, one more hit. No! Ah! Ah! Come on, just kill him! Kill him, kill him, kill him! Yes! Oh, that was fucked up. Hey, but at least doing that that spin attack, just to validate you guys again, that was one of the very few examples where having the slower dodge animation actually saved me. Despite that fact, this was still one of the most fucked up fights in the entire playthrough. Because even when you get that benefit, the downsides are just way too bad for it to matter that much. Fucking fuck up the fucking fuck. Well, at least we have that done. After 4 hours, we only got Sanctuary Guardian down and Artorias. But then, it was time for a Kala meet and greet with the Calamitous Black Dragon. Although acquiring the Crash Key in the first place already almost auto-sealed my fate. But the thing that most people in the chat thought would seal the deal was the downwards Fire Breath attack. And indeed, this was unavoidable damage. But the fact that it takes me so long to stand up prevented it from hitting twice in a row. So it was survivable, but staying at high enough health was a huge problem. At the very least, the flippering was an absolute godsend here. Not sure if I could even have done this without it at all. But of course it does imply no wolf's ring. And with limited poise, getting stunlocked to death was a constant danger. And heavier armor would negate the flippering that I so desperately needed. Not to mention that in order to remain at high health, I had no choice but to use attack opportunities as healing opportunities, slowing my progress down even further. Not to mention my attacks still whiffing somehow against this ginormous target. And I know I've made this particular joke 1,000 times before, but this time it's really proper to say that every aspect of this fight made things drag on. Which in turn made me a special kind of salty, also known as slodium. Oh, it's so dangerous when I get hit when he flies away like that. Oh, am I just the first person on the planet that ever used the longsword in this game, or what is it? Why is no one talking about the fact that the longsword always fucking misses? I'm dead. Oh, I got lucky. Okay, heal. Ah! I was about to say, don't do a claw attack. Damn it, I need to heal. Please tell me I'm oh, okay, I'm out of deadlocks. Okay, good. Come on, dragon. Time to meet your maker. But here's the one providing his wrath from the heavens. Oh, very lucky. Very lucky. Please, please. Ooh, I was tapping circle hoping it would work, and it did work out. Uh-oh, no, fuck, not good. Wow. Oh, huh? He does it. Strange, but okay, fair enough. Not complaining. Shit! Ooh, I did not get hit. Okay, good. Of course, the stab doesn't reach. Of course, the stab doesn't reach. It finally does reach. Okay, close. 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 Kill him! Yes! Oh, got lucky there. He started turning around. Like a record baby. Well, that was not as bad as Artorias, that's for sure. But still was pretty messed up. Okay, let's hope that Menace is not going to be the worst one of the DLC. So, after devouring the callum meat and potatoes of the run, we went into the bowels of the earth, all the way down to Menace. And surprisingly, fighting Menace at 50% speed was actually not that difficult at all. He's aggressive, but not necessarily fast. So, as long as I had the flip ring equipped, it didn't feel that different from a normal fight. That is, until he starts using his dark magic. Because not only did those require the silver pendant, but in reverse of how I would normally use it. Normally I avoid the rain and circle attack and use the pendant only for the forward moving barrage. This time it was the exact opposite. So first of all, some validation for the iframe fanatics. Yes, this was another example where slow dodging allowed me to dodge right through it. Although still required some precise spacing and timing. But the problem is that because of my muscle memory, I would instinctively try to use the pendant, which would inevitably get me killed. Because at half speed, you can't do that quick enough. For the rain you can be quick enough, in fact you need an almost instant reaction. And because the projectiles linger on top of the barrier, you will need to immediately roll out of the way when it dissipates. Strangely enough, the timing on the circle attack was extremely generous. At least when you use the pendant early. And in case you wouldn't react in time, you'd think that you could simply dodge backwards through it. But what in the ever-living fuck happened here? Not only did I get hit early in my roll, but on top of that it looks like a normal roll, even though I'm wearing the flip ring. Needless to say, my brain flipped upside down trying to make sense of this. But all in all, you would think that even under these circumstances then, Manus would be easy to handle, regardless of the massive hand size discrepancy. Wrong! Because of one single factor. The wombo combo being a double whammy. First of all, if I was already far enough away, I could avoid it, and this would literally be my only safe healing opportunity. However, Manus can first easily close the distance before doing it, and then the attack is completely unavoidable. In other words, the wombo combo either entails taking guaranteed damage, or it is the only opportunity to heal damage taken. And in the second phase, I couldn't even afford having my Estus selected in the first place, because I needed immediate pendant access. Because leaving your pendant pending leads into pure pendantmonium after all. And if you're thinking about tanking through all of this with Hevel's armor, no, don't be so half full of yourself. Not under these circumstances. At least my damage output was surprisingly good with the longsword, especially because of the counter damage on the poke attacks. Regardless, because of the wombo combo, this fight became a complete RNG fuckfest. So despite being conceptually completely different from the one-shot contest from back in the day, effectively it came down to the same principle. The successful attempt would be completely determined by Manus not closing the distance before doing the wombo combo when I'm not at high health. That's it. That was the determining factor over which you have zero control. Making it a rather unsatisfying fight even when you finally do emerge victoriously. Because it entails nothing more than having the patience and or stupidity necessary to keep trying over and over until you just happen to get the right RNG. Quite ironic that it's Manus taking the piss. Yeah, he consistently doesn't growl from a distance. So, yeah, I guess we learned something new. But it does suck, because that would have been an alternative healing opportunity. It's a little risky to make use of that, though, after the the forward shotgun barrage thing. So it has to do with your distance towards him, which is... You would have expected to be the other way around, but... No. Right at the end. A pain in my anus. You know, I'm just going for it. We finally made that discovery for a reason, after all. No! Ooh! Come on, 2 hits, I think. Come on, 2. Yeah, I got him. I got him. If I hit him, I got him. Fuck you. Fuck off. As I mentioned, we already knew what the winning attempt would look like. We still got wombo comboed, but we had enough health. We happened to have enough health to survive it. That's it. I guess to celebrate that victory, we have to say goodnight to Miss Evening. Now, after all of this, you would think that going full tank mode was completely out of the question, since it never produced results before except against Capra Demon. However, to my great surprise, when the necessity for poise quickly became evident because of the 4 Kings quick attacks, it turned out that it was a completely viable strategy against them, even at half speed. You would have expected this to turn into a gankfest, with all 4 Kings present at the same time. But that's not what happened, I'm very happy to say. Have L? No, have W. In fact, the same thing applied to Nido. The reason I left him as the final boss before Gwyn is because I was planning on breaking the Fab Ring, so that I could combine the Ring of Fog and Slumbering Dragoncrest Ring, in order to avoid having to deal with the skeletons. Although in hindsight I could simply have reverted the occult club into a divine club. But none of that was necessary to begin with. Heck, even red moss to reset the bleed buildup wasn't even necessary. So although I finally thought that after 10 years I would end up using those in a playthrough, but even under these circumstances I could leave them unread. And thus we were at the final obstacle. Parrying Gwyn at half speed. But as I mentioned before, I was ready for this by using the S-stock to parry... Oh, oops. Okay, well, let's just call a spade a spade. This turned into a complete and absolute mess. But the reason I made it through is because I relied on the immense HP regen of the Elizabeth mushrooms, since there wasn't exactly much room to drink Estus in order to bait parries with. But yeah, in the end, I suppose it is only fitting that a run that was a slow burn throughout would end with a bit of a whimper. So, all in all, can we conclude that I should try to beat all the other games in slow motion as well? Well, one thing I definitely learned from this is that that kind of decision should not be made hastily. So, I guess time will tell. A lot of it, probably.